morning.
Our royal editor, Sarah Hewson, is back with us to discuss this.
Hurrah!
Hello again, Sarah. Interesting from some of those texts and emails from viewers there, saying that actually a lot of this is fueled by a care for Kate and wanting to make sure that she is OK, but ultimately some people have gone too far.
Yes, I think there's two strands to this. There is a lot of concern for Kate and a lot of interest in what has happened to her, which comes from concern. But just because we're interested in what's happened and we want to know doesn't mean we have a right to know. She's got a public profile, but she's not public property, actually, and she is entitled, as anyone else, to medical privacy. And so the story this morning that a member of staff or several members of staff, we don't know the numbers, at the London clinic tried to access her private medical records is really concerning. We don't know if they managed to do that or whether they were stopped in the process of doing it. But as you said, Nicola, it is illegal as a member of staff working in an NHS or private medical facility to attempt to breach someone's personal medical information is a criminal offence. There is an investigation going on at the London clinic. The Information Commissioner's Office is also looking into this as well. So I think it is really a very serious twist in what has already been a very twisted saga, really.
And keeps this furore going. You were away. I just wanted to throw something to you that was said to... Well, in fact, we both said this last week. I understand that photo created all sorts of hysteria. I understand that conspiracy theorists online wrote and said things of which I've read none but have heard of many. I understand that the princess then came out and said, you know, I'm sorry, this is what I do. Can I throw something at you as a royal correspondent? You know what a royalist I am. Do you know what annoyed me most about that? Was that the photo wasn't taken by her, whether it was taken by William or somebody else. To me, at that moment when she was and is ill, and we should not be bullying her, not online, not on television, and certainly not within Kensington Palace, I felt like they threw her under the bus somewhat, and she had to face up to that, and I'm being completely serious. And I say that because I think she's amazing. I'm not accusing her husband, he might have taken the photograph. I'm accusing Kensington Palace. I think they threw her out there, and I think that's half the problem, which is why a lot of people are concerned.
I think she's a thoroughly decent person.
Yeah, I agree.
She wanted to put her hands up and say, look, it was me.
Do you think she was forced?
I don't think she was forced, but, you know, she is surrounded by advisors whose job it is to look after those things. It's not for Kate to know the rules and regulations of picture agencies. Someone should have checked that photo knowing that it was so important. The stakes on that photo were so high, and I really do think she was let down by those around her. And I think in all of this, with the conspiracy theories, with all of the constant focus on this, we have to take a step back and remember, actually, she may be the Princess of Wales, but she's a human being.
Who's ill.
She's a woman. She's a mother of 3 young children who has been through what is clearly a very, very serious operation with all of the trauma that comes around that. And this can only be compounding that.
Do you think she's offered the same level of sympathy as Meghan Markle when Meghan Markle was going through mental health issues?
Well, I mean, I think we're in a similar scenario here in terms of the level of online trolling that is going on. And I've been talking about that the last couple of days. You know, Meghan and Harry have spoken a lot about just how dark some of the trolling they have received and that they saw was. And we know that, you know, she received death threats from the far right. There was, you know, she's talked about her mental health. And I think, again, we have to remember these are human beings.
Exactly.
They may be members of the royal family, but they are human beings with feelings.
And it's the first time that we've really seen this level of scrutiny aimed towards Catherine and William, isn't it? It seems like not a tide is turning, but it feels new in that sense.
But I think this is because of the splits between the kind of two sides, the Sussexes versus the Waleses. This has become a lot worse. And you have these various rival camps online who, in the past, wouldn't have had an ability to communicate with each other. They might have been writing, spidery notes or whatever, but they can all now come together and pile on.
It's quite toxic, isn't it?
And just going on with that argument, and I repeat, you know what a royalist I am. Do you think there's something in the theory that I was reading over the weekend that... So Charles wants to slim down monarchy. The monarchy to this generation, they're the entitled ones who think they should spend all their parents' money. This generation is not as invested in the royal family as past generations. have the royal family, the firm, the comms departments, whatever, decided that more transparency, like the King, I've got cancer, that you'd never have heard that about the Queen, Kate's going to have that. Have they got themselves in a position now where, having dipped their toe in the water to try and not make themselves more popular, maybe more relatable, it's now biting them on the backside?
This has been something they've
really
always struggled with. You'll remember back in the 1960s when they let the cameras in for the Royal Family documentary, and the late Queen regretted it ever since and said they'd pulled back the curtain, they'd, you know, damaged that mystique of the Royal Family.
Great words, that's what the old man used to use.
And so I think here, you know, this generation do want to be more upfront. We've seen that from the King talking about his diagnosis, but it's very difficult. And at certain points, they want to draw the line and say, OK, enough now. And I think one thing this shows is there's still a huge amount of interest in the royal family.
I told you earlier about the thing in America. In America this week, people who Google Biden and Trump together were not as many
dwarfed
as
by the amount of people.
But my point is not that they're putting
Kate.
their... I mean, I was perfectly happy with... We talked about this. She's having an operation. I've got my own theory. You'll have yours. Nick will have hers. We won't be seeing her until the end of April.
No.
So an innocent photograph... Some people say it wasn't innocent. All of this pile-on. Yes, you're right. The online stuff, Harry, Meghan, that. I just... For me... I've always believed that this woman, I call her Iron Kate, because this is the first time in our monarchy's history that a member of the royal family has been allowed to fall in love with and marry, don't hit me, a commoner. And I think she's incredible. And I hope this doesn't put her off it, and I hope this doesn't stain her relationship with either the public or the press or whatever, because I think she's incredible.
What's interesting is there was some YouGov polling for Sky News yesterday, which showed that actually trust in William and Kate is the highest among any other member of the royal family, despite all of this. So actually, they haven't been as damaged as you might think by that photo row. And I think the vast majority of people come at this from a position of concern and care. It is just that some of those darker recesses of the internet have made their way into the mainstream and
they've had to respond to it as well, which is slightly unprecedented. I put this to Kinsey earlier in the show. This has been hugely destabilising, I think, for the royal family. It's on the front pages of all of the newspaper.
Every day.
Yeah.
And it was largely, these conspiracy theories have largely been peddled by TikTok. There's loads of growing concern in America about darker forces, perhaps, who are in charge of TikTok, the parent company ByteDance. I wonder if it is in the best interests of certain companies to target institutions like the royal family and perhaps to try and destabilise not just the institution but the UK as a whole.
Yeah, well, I don't know about the sort of whether it's institutions at work here, but certainly for individuals, there are TikTokers in the United States who have never shown any interest or commented on the royal family before, who have now created an entire industry around this. They are updating on an hourly basis. They are getting millions of views and therefore they are making money out of this.
I've said it
and building their own profile.
Big tech companies should be controlled. You talk about the trolling, you talk about that stuff. They make billions of dollars and nobody controls them. I think it's another example. It
reminds me of Nicola Bulley, actually. Yes. If you think about that huge social media pile-on, the scrutiny on her family, people turning up, people with their own theories, internet sleuths turning up and forgetting actually that was a woman and a family.
You were with me. We covered that story repeatedly on JK Live, and the police left it open. Internet people coming on and filming from the thing and looking at the river.
Well, it's all about social media and how old institutions cope with a modern media, and by that I mean social media. But thank you.
I hope she's all right, though. That's what you're hoping. Just quickly, to Easter she should be back.
Well, that is the hope. There is a sort of planning underway at the moment at Kensington Palace. It might be that we see her walking to church on Easter Sunday with the family, but then I think she'll take some time off over the holidays. April the 17th is a date the children go back to school. That might be the first time that we see her, and I think she'll be back doing something around her charity with the early years in a kind of gentle reintroduction back into public life, but to show the things that really matter to her.
Amazing.